picture like those moments where, different various things going on in let's say Paul's ministry, and where it's like at that point, all you can do is follow what you believe the Lord's telling you to do, and then just see the results afterwards. And and when if you're walking with the Lord, the Lord will direct you and guide you into those things. But I think oftentimes in that, that's kind of what we're calling the faking. If there isn't an instruction, it isn't necessarily you're just making up stuff on the fly and type of thing like that. It's a good acronym or not acronym, but rhyme for saying, just do what you believe the Lord's telling you to do, and when you're doing it, do it with confidence and trust and faith that God's going to guide and direct in that. Yeah. I think a good example was the situation that you'd brought up, Doug, with the sanctuary when they couldn't get the doors closed, and they couldn't because they couldn't disassemble the big stage and all this other stuff like that. You kind of had to just say, well, this is how we're going to do it,
Right.
and not freak out, go, oh, and have everyone's morning be totally wrecked,
Right.
by just.
And that was my thing that day in dealing with the various ministry leaders and all of their wonderful frustrations with me. It was simple. I'm here. This is what we're going to do, and it's going to work. And if you don't help me, it's not going to work, and it's going to be your fault. Mm-hmm. Go, there is a plan here. I will take responsibility for it. You just have to come in line. We'll make it happen. And that's a lot of what it is. It's staying the course. It's one of our pastor's favorite lines is obedience is the Christian safety net.
Yep.
It's think about like tithing or something. You go, well, if I give God 10%, then I can't afford to pay my bills. Okay, but you're supposed to do it.
Right.
So
be obedient.
Be obedient, be faithful, stick to the plan, and trust that God's going to sort it out. You may not always feel like it, but you hold the line.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Well, I was kind of thinking Psalm 23, verse 4 fits this one. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. That's not, I won't be afraid. I won't let anything spook me. It says, I will fear no evil. That's an active mindset.
Right.
Why does he say that? Well, because the temptation is to be afraid when you're in the valley of the shadow of death.
Exactly.
Been there, that's a scary place.
Yep. No, that's exactly.
Well, tells us elsewhere that perfect love casts out all fear. So if you're in the valley of death and you're experiencing that fear, you know where you need to turn. You may not have that full experience yet, but you work through it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it just follows up with the whole thing of being on your knees. At that time, that's when I thank God, because I'm on my knees then at that point. And I'm like going, oh, Lord, I know you know the future, you know what all is going on, and I just put my trust in your hands. So that
a lot of times, why is this happening? Oh yeah, because it brings me to my knees. Never mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. Now I know why. Okay.
Exactly.
Yep. All right. 41. Be sure the widows, hospitalized, and folks in nursing homes. Ooh, you don't fully qualify for any of those yet, there, Bill, but are well cared for.
Yours actually says in folks in nursing homes?
Yeah.
Oh. Mine just says and impaired.
Well, Bill qualifies for impaired.
Or it could be infirmed.
That font is terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yep.
Anyway.
So are you well cared for, Bill? Bill? Did you hit mute again?
Yeah, I probably did.
Bill?
I plead the fifth. This is a family show.
All right. As assisting pastors.
Freudian slip there.
Yeah. All right, but you got to turn down your speakers, Bill. We're getting feedback now from your speakers.
I don't have any speakers on.
Oh, you don't? No. When I turn down your mic, then I get rid of all the feedback.
I have a headset on.
Oh.
And there's no speakers. speakers on.
Okay.
So that's not the answer.
All right. As assisting pastors, I'm going to turn down your mic, though. As assisting pastors, we need to minister to everyone God brings us, young and old alike. But there is a special place in God's heart for the fatherless, widows. See, I told you, I haven't slept in 3 days, so widows and those who are sick and infirmed. There's your infirmed word there. Be certain that the members of your congregation who are hospitalized or in nursing homes are visited regularly. Call on them at least weekly. More often if their situation is terminal or critical. Yeah, because they might not be around in a week. All right, Charles Spurgeon once advised his ministerial students to often be where men die. Doing so sharpens your priorities, and it puts you in touch with what really matters in life. It forces you to draw near to God. Doesn't say to, but I would think near God. Well, same thing. All right. Who is a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. Many Calvary Chapel churches are predominantly filled with relatively young people. But we must not neglect those who are near the end of their journey. Nor should we neglect others of special need, such as the weak, the feeble-minded, the bereaved, and the sick. Get into the hospitals, share the love of God in the nursing homes, be at the bedside of the infirmed frequently. To do so is true religion and undefiled before God. All right. You there, Bill?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
All right.
I would say, with the fact that my dad had just passed away just a few weeks ago, that is definitely something that I've experienced, is that, reality check of we're all, going to be out of here someday type of thing like that. And so what he's saying is definitely true, to be near someone who's dying and stuff like that. It's a good place to be. So, and yeah.
Our pastor has pointed out many a time that he prefers funerals over weddings.
Right.
Because you can't give the gospel at a wedding. Everybody's distracted. Oh, look how beautiful the bride is, and whatever. Like you can present the gospel, but nobody's paying any attention to you. But at a funeral, everybody's thinking about death, the finite nature of their existence, and I mean it's just so real, and it totally adjusts your priorities. It totally shifts your focus. It's beautiful that way. So that side of it's fantastic. I think the other side of it, though, a lot of the people he's talking about here are those who can't get out. And so commonly, because they're not dead yet in here. I mean, there was the be where men die, but they're not dead yet. So it's the beauty of dealing with people who are stuck inside. They're trapped somewhere for whatever reason. Is there's usually one of two responses.
They have air conditioning.
Or they don't. No. I've seen some where they just whine and complain about the circumstances, and then you look at those and you go, oh, I guess my life isn't that bad, and you're encouraged to go forward. And then there's the other option where God's doing a work in them and through them, and they're typically brought into a much deeper state of prayer. They learn about intercessory prayer. They have a peace about them if they're believers, because they know where they're going. My ticket's been punched. Romain, in some of his teachings, talks about that. People on their death, Christians on their deathbed, you can't minister to those. They minister to you, because it's just they are so ready. They're done. They don't have to deal with any of this anymore. Yeah. And for the believer, this is as close to hell as we get.
Yeah,
this is our time here. So when you see a believer who's on their deathbed, you're seeing as close to heaven as you can this side of things. I mean, you're going, oh, hey, you see that peace, you see that that's incredible. But you also see those who really take on that role of intercessor, and they those are people who are really getting the work of the ministry done on a spiritual level, which is where it really matters.
Yeah.
Young people, yes, they show up to events and they do things and they're active and busy, and that can be great and wonderful to watch. But the ministry goes forth on its knees. Mm-hmm. The church advances on its knees. We need that support, and these people are the people who do that. In fact, New Testament, when it talks about widows, that's one of the things that's part of their role. They're old enough that they shouldn't remarry, and the church should, they don't have family to take care of them, so the church should be taking care of them. Great. They get a prayer ministry. Yep. Church provides for them, they pray for the church. They become a major support network spiritually for how things are supposed to work and keep working. And that's a beautiful thing, and it's just so easy to lose sight of that. And, I've gotten to minister to a number of older people in the fellowship and outside of the fellowship who run into some of these things, and they get frustrated because they don't feel like they can give as much anymore. They don't feel like they have as much to offer, or I have two examples in mind right now. One's a lady in our fellowship who, she couldn't do children's anymore. She couldn't do other things. Her health was so bad, and she was just having a hard time. And I was over there helping her with something, and I was like, well, what about intercessory prayer? And she's going, oh, God's been showing me all kinds of stuff on that. I go, then you're serving more than anybody else is. Like, you're covered. Mm-hmm. Or the other one was last year I was up in the UP working on one of our church plants. Mm-hmm. And there was a few guys from the church who were supposed to be helping me with the process, most of whom were just terrible. But they had this one older gentleman, relatively new to the fellowship, has a history with Calvary, I think. But he kept showing up. And he was there longer than just about any of the other guys. The other guys were younger, had more energy. But the old guy, he would show up, he'd push through, he'd do what he could. Yeah, he'd have to take breaks and take off. But he was a real blessing and encouragement to me. Actually accomplished more than any of the other guys did. But he felt terrible that he couldn't do more. Like, that's a challenge. I'm hitting middle age, I guess. I'm in the middle somewhere. Not that young, not that old. But to see an old guy doing more than anybody else and complaining that he can't do more, that should light a fire under your butt. Yeah. So it's just, these are people who genuinely get things done. And the older people, they've got wisdom of the years, they've got lots of experience, they've got so much to share. And that's so readily overlooked. Whatever the new fad is, or the new trendy thing, or how do we make this more contemporary for the kiddies, and whatever happened to the respect for our elders and that appreciation of just that depth of experience and that richness of their walk. That's
gone. Nope. Mm-hmm. Bill, you got anything to add on this?
No.
Okay. Ed.
Yeah. Some people call us contemporary. Some people call us relevant. We call ourselves contemporant. And when you say
okay.
We don't actually do that. There's a video out there you can look up on YouTube.
Yes.
I guess I didn't say, Ed, do you have anything meaningful to add to this? So you did.
No, nothing meaningful.
All right. Go ahead, Doug. 42, be creative.
Be creative. Look for more ways to help. Ministry is service. It is laying down your life for others. It is taking the place of the slave, the servant of all. It is following the example of Jesus, who, though creator of the universe, washed his disciples' feet. Open your eyes and be creative. Look for ways to help the pastor, staff, and congregation. Most true biblical love is demonstrated in the simple things of God's kingdom. Open doors for ladies. Take packages out of the hands of the one who is burdened. Sacrifice your study time to sweep the steps or fix the plumbing. Get your hands dirty. Be in the trenches with the troops. When I was a pastor over 20 years ago in a denominational church in Minnesota, I'm still reading. This isn't me. Yeah. Okay. I learned to bale hay, plow fields, inseminate cattle, dehorn calves, castrate hogs, and clean barns. That is where most of my ministry took place. not in formal teaching circles.